Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Online Learning with Miss Giddings. This will be one of our last videos for our Key Stage 3 Crime and Punishment module in Year 7. So let's continue. In this lesson we are looking at the modern police force and actually has it changed. So our learning outcomes for this lesson is recap the Victorian police force, compare the similarities and differences in the police force, and describe how the police force changed in the modern world. So, first thing, by 1900, each area of Britain had its own local police force, but there were still problems. Police officers were badly paid and poorly trained. The only training was some military drill. Most of the police officer's time was spent on the beat, so that's walking around his local area, and that's up to 20 miles a day. A policeman operated on his own, on foot, with just a whistle to call for help. And there were more than 200 local police forces. Each had its own rules and way of working. And finally, local record keeping was poor and there was no centralised record for criminals. It was unusual and difficult for neighbouring forces to work together. So even by 1900, there were still issues in the police force. Just like we looked at last lesson with the effectiveness of it, there were still some issues which needed to be resolved. That is what we're going to try and look at this lesson. In order to do that, I'm going to give you some information and you're going to complete out this table. As you can see, you've got the factor, you want a description of 19th century police and how to use that factor, 20th century police, continuity, meaning how it stayed the same, and change, how it changed. So let's do the first one together and then you can spend some time doing it by yourself. So this is what you'll be presented with. So our first one is weapons. So to distinguish them from soldiers, the first police were not armed. Nowadays, police can be issued with guns when necessary, and the number of times this happens is increasing. Police in riot gear now resemble soldiers that were intended to replace in 1830s. Ordinary police officers are still unarmed. The police don't want to be armed, and the public doesn't want them to be either. In response to fears about the police being vulnerable to attack, a different style of truncheon, as you can see on the side here, was introduced in the 1990s, as police have a range of other weapons to protect themselves or assist the arrest of suspects also, such as portable canisters of CS gas or tear gas, which can cause temporary blindness, or even special riot control equipment when necessary. Now, that is a lot of information, which is why we have this table, so you can separate into things like this. So our factor for that one was weapons. Short description of 19th century police. They weren't armed and they're dressed like ordinary policemen. You could also put what they used and what you already know about 19th century police weapons that wasn't on that source. 20th century police can be armed, only dressed like soldiers if needed. Again, you can pad that out a little bit more. I just wanted to be really specific so you understand what is needed. Continuity stayed the same. Use of truncheons, which are now called batons. Ordinary officers are not armed. And then change, what's actually changed. You have the use of riot gear, which you could add made people look like soldiers. You got new weapons. We know about the use of tasers, tear gas, and then guns if necessary. So that is what is required of you for your task. There are another 9 for you to do, so you could spend some time doing that for me. That is found on the handout sheet, like all other work sheets that have been provided throughout this course. Once you have completed that, move on to the next task, which is using the information you've gathered, you're going to answer the following question. How far has the modern police force changed in comparison to its creation in 1829? As this is a how far question, you need a couple of paragraphs. So paragraph 1 should include a description of the police force in 1829, what it looked like in its conception. What was it used for? What did they have? And how much power did they have? If you've spoken about the Victorian police in the first paragraph, that means in the second paragraph you must talk about the modern police. So you want a description of the modern police force. What is it used for? What do they have? And how much power do they have? Now it's asking you for a comparison. So your third paragraph needs to have continuity. What's the same? That's why we did this table. And change what is actually different. Then as it's an essay, you need to make sure that your next paragraph is a conclusion. We want a nice strong conclusion, deciding whether there was more continuity or change. So these are quite bulky tasks, but we have enough information to be able to get through it. And as always, if you have any questions, you can ask on the community page or ask me directly. So that is the quick overview of the modern police force. If you click onto your handouts page and complete the set work, that is everything for this lesson completed. And as normal, any issues, please email your teacher. Thank you, and hopefully you are able to do the work.